Welcome to Dan the Road Trip Guy. I'm your host, Dan, and each week we'll embark on a new adventure, discovering memory and life lessons of our incredible guests. From everyday travelers to thrill seekers and everyone in between, this podcast is your front row seat to inspiring stories of passion, resilience, and the pursuit of happiness. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Happy Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful sunshiny day here in Houston. I'm about to take my puppies out for a little run. Feeling good.
I appreciate you being here and taking this virtual trip with me. I wish we were in the car together. Take a couple minutes, Mark, and just tell my listeners, who is Mark Winters?
Who is Mark Winters? I'm an aerospace engineer. I went to school. I love math. I love science. I love applied physics, computational fluid dynamics. It's all something that just, I don't know. I've always had a curious mind to figure out how things work, take them apart, put them together again. I think it's been a phenomenal part of my life. I had a little spark of creativity that started when I was younger, when I was around 5. I started writing poetry with my grandmother, and we've stayed poetry pals for my whole life, and I've had that sort of bit going and painting as well with her. I decided after I'd graduated, I'm practicing aerospace engineering, I decided I wanted to do something musical. And so in 2011, I put it on my list because music has always moved me, been sort of the soundtrack for whatever I was doing. I decided to pick up a guitar and sing a song for my wife for our anniversary. And had the most amazing time just sort of going through the journey of buying a guitar and learning and then surprising her in our favorite Italian restaurant with a song. I got this phenomenal, energy I'd never gotten doing anything else in my life. Just this sense of connection, singing to someone else. It was 10 times anything I'd ever done. Writing poetry for someone or, practicing engineering, anything. I never had found that level of connection before, that level of passion. And so then I became obsessed with learning music. I didn't know anything. I had to teach myself music theory and composition and performance. And so I started leaning more and more and more in, and around about 2022, I made the decision that my soul was lit up way too much playing music to do anything else. And so I really started pursuing it as my full-time career and did my first big long tour last year. And when I write, it's interesting. I have this science mind that sees the world, and I have this poet mind. And so I've been learning to shape my voice in my writing so that people can feel kind of the 3 things in my life that are my driving principles. One, I'm just very positive. I love the world. I love people. And so I want that to come across in what I'm writing. I love math and science, and I love poetry. And so those 3 things sort of help shape the songs that I create and the live performances that I give.
Thanks for sharing that. And you're from Texas.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I was born originally in New Orleans, Louisiana, but went to high school, college, and I've been in Texas ever since. And so my wife and we consider ourselves, I am an adopted Texan. She was born in Houston.
So this is Dan the Road Trip Guy. First question for me is always, tell me about that first car or just a really fun car story.
When I hear that, I think always of my very first car I got. I started driving early. I was 14, and I bought this old 1960 blue Volkswagen Bug. It was sort of blue. It was rust and blue in combination, and it needed a lot of exterior repair. And so I found a paint and body shop, and I volunteered my time to help them prep other cars to paint. I learned to wet sand. It's a fabulous thing to do. It's the dirty job that nobody wants to do. And they let me use the equipment to start restoring my Volkswagen. I had to had a moon roof on it, and it was all rotted out. And I had the seats were terrible. They had this, I don't know what it was, hay flying around everywhere when you drove it. And of course, it didn't have air conditioning or anything, but that, whatever. You're a new driver, you don't need that, I reckon. But then it had cracks all along the front window, and so it didn't seal up well. And so I remember working hard, sanding other people's cars, then fixing mine, and then cutting fabric and doing the thing. And I got it to a point where it was sort of barely drivable. And I remember taking my car, it was in Wichita Falls, so North Texas. And I remember getting in my car and driving it down driving it to the inspection place to get it inspected, and being just the most nervous person ever because, well, it wasn't licensed, right?
Right.
And so I'm kind of driving it down there, sort of worried. The windows, they had these, so you have a little roll-up windows on the side, and then you have this little triangular window that you could sort of kick out.
Oh, yeah.
And that was your air conditioner, right?
Yes.
And so I remember kicking out this window, and I guess I didn't do it. I'd used duct tape to tape the seat so the hay wouldn't fly everywhere, right? I remember the window when I turned it, somehow it got underneath the right seat's duct tape. So there was this giant plume of hay flying around inside my car, right? And I started rolling the window down, and the window didn't roll all the way down. I guess it got stuck. I had fixed it, but it got stuck. And so I couldn't get rid of the hay, right? And so I'm trying, hay flying everywhere. And I'm trying to get down to get my car inspected. And just thinking to myself, what have I gotten myself into? And that's my first recollection of a funny drive. Later, so I got it inspected. I got some more duct tape and taped the seats down. And I remember the third day I took it out. I drove it to school, and it started raining. The rain was coming through the cracks in the seal of the window. I didn't know that it was cracked at the time.
Right.
And so the seals were all cracked. And so the rain was starting to come in. And so I got rain on the floorboard, water on the floorboard and whatever. And so I cleaned that up. And on the way home, I borrowed a milk jug from the cafeteria and some string. And I got more of my duct tape, and I duct taped the string to the window in the cracks where the cracks were forming. And I had a wick system wicking the water down into my jug, right? For the drive home, because it was still raining when I was going home. And I used that wick system for 2 months before I could afford to pay for the cracks to be repaired on the front windshield. So the Volkswagen was good to me for many, many years, but it had humble beginnings.
Yeah. The old Volkswagens are popular today, and people try to purchase those and fix them up. That's cool.
It was, you could fix that car with like a wrench and a hammer and a duct tape. That was it. It was like the most basic repair on anything, right? It was almost so light that one person could lift it up. I mean, it was just a super light thing, pretty phenomenal. And it had like a lever on it, and you had it 1 gallon of extra because it didn't have a gas gauge. And so when you drive it until it went dry, then you flip it over and you had another gallon, right, of gas to get you wherever you needed to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. I love car stories. Hey, you travel a lot today, but any epic road trips in your life, one that just sticks out?
Dan, my first tour that I went on as a musician, so I drove a lot during college and whatnot. And so I had like smaller trips, maybe 4 or 5 hours, maybe even longer. My wife and I may have taken a few road trips to see her parents in Florida, and I thought those were long. And then I went on my tour in the spring of last year, 20,000 miles.
Okay.
That's pretty epic. And it was my first time ever to tow a trailer. I have a small 20-foot trailer that you can live in.
Sure.
And so I towed that west out of Texas, through Texas, and then out of Texas through New Mexico, up into Canada, all the way across the top of Canada, back down the coast of California, and zigzag back and forth back to Texas. I experienced so many firsts on this epic road trip. First of all, it was amazing. I'd never been out touring as a musician, so it was just phenomenal to be out on my Good Vibes Highway tour. I was like living the moment. Play a show every night. So I played 60 shows in 65 days worth of being out on my tour, and got to share all my positive energy with everyone. I call it creating a little extra protons, right, in your orbit. So I got to share lots of extra protons out there on my tour. I got to wake up in the morning in a new place, a national forest, a state park, a beautiful city, running, rollerblading, surfing, going to play my show, connecting with other musicians along the road, doing collabs, learning to be mobile. The world is so technologically advanced now. I cut two new songs while I'm on my tour from the road, right? Just doing it all, from my laptop. So just a pretty phenomenal, epic road trip. I saw places I'd never even thought to visit. The beauty of Oregon. I didn't even know much about Oregon. Is just phenomenal. The beauty of the top of Banff in Canada. I never even thought about visiting there. Just pretty much every amazing place. Twin Falls. It has the most amazing river running through it. And so I got all these Moab, I don't know, it's like Mars there. If you've ever been to Moab,
I've been there.
It's like,
yes.
Wow, what? So where am I? I'm driving in. I'm like, where are we on a different planet?
Where am I?
Lots of amazing things on my Good Vibes Highway tour, and it was pretty epic. 20,000 miles.
Wow, 65.
Yeah,
that's a lot of miles. 65 days.
Yes.
Favorite city along the way? Anything that stuck out to you? You mentioned some beautiful places.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a favorite. I kept uncovering these amazing places that really were just one-of-a-kind gems. I don't know. I had so many amazing encounters. I don't know that I have a favorite. I might be partial to Vancouver. Just it's so phenomenally beautiful there. It's just unreal. And I was there in the spring. The weather was just awesome. But I don't know. I can't say that I have a favorite, man.
Hey, before we jump to the music journey in a little more detail, tell us about your journey. I looked on your website and it says you're a rocket scientist. So tell us about growing up and landing in that role, and then we'll talk about music.
I remember early on being out in the workshop with my mom's dad and my dad's dad, tearing engines apart and building shelves and building furniture and just sort of being very mechanically inclined. And I remember, first time I did algebra, I just really enjoying the experience of solving equations, just something that was really a lot of fun for me. And then when I got to geometry, I really loved it. And then I started applying it to what I was doing, making things and creating things. And so sort of logically led me to studying aerospace engineering in college. I went to Texas A&M University.
Okay.
Gig 'em, Aggies.
Yeah, there you go.
I studied aerospace engineering, found that I had a really passion for computational fluid dynamics. I love the math and the mystery of the math for objects moving through fluids, air or water or other fluids. And so I embarked on a journey to learn to design helicopters and jets. And that was the big part of my initial journey as an aerospace engineer, just worked for Bell Helicopter for a bit.
Okay.
And link flight simulations, designing helicopters and trainers for jets. Just found the home for my logic and my engineering mind. I also found that I was a bit more creative, maybe, and outgoing than the average engineer. Had a great time doing it, met some great people, had some great mentors, and really enjoyed the work. Really enjoyed working with the test pilots who were in the programs that I work with. They were very creative and also very outdoorsy and athletically inclined like I was. And so just had a great time meeting some great people. So
then at some point, and you talked about writing with your grandmother, but at some point, music kind of bit you and you said, hey, I'm gonna change direction.
I guess I have some eureka moments, like when I sat down to write poetry with my grandmother. I was 5. I wasn't planning on doing it. I just did it, and I wrote a poem about lilies, and I really liked it. It was really bizarre because I was, super testosterone kid running everywhere. So who knew I would like that? I don't know. And so that same thing for music, I decided to sing a song for my wife for our anniversary. Who knew I would just have such a deep emotional experience with that? And so it sort of surprised me. I guess I've always had a creative side of my personality, my journey. It just was something I didn't nurture as much. And so I ended up sort of being surprised. And then as I started leaning more into music, you still don't know. It's like a career change. You don't know. You don't know, are you going to be good at it or not? Are you was it a momentary flash in the pan? And so over time, I learned, I guess I put my 10,000 steps in to learn to play the guitar, to learn to sing, to learn to write, to learn to play the piano. And as I was doing that, I found a greater love for music than I had found in my engineering pursuits or my business pursuits for that matter. I started leaning more and more into it and looking for mentors in the space and looking for education in the space. I came to the conclusion in 2022 that I had lots of things to say, and I wanted to share them with people. And it brought me great joy to write music and bring it out into the world and share it. And my wife, she pivoted with me. She pivoted from being married to the engineer to the artist, and she's been an amazing supporter. I couldn't have done what I've done without her telling me, it's okay, Mark, it's okay. We'll find a new way, in this new direction in your life.
You walk in and you go, you know what? I think I'm done with that rocket science thing. I'm going to be a musician.
Yeah. And she's like, okay. I mean, initially she's like, great, let's do it. And she wants to go to every show, and she's right there with her foam finger, go, Mark. But then after a while, the luster wears off. She's hearing the same songs. I'm writing all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going on tour. There's a lot of life adjustments that we have to make. And she's just been phenomenal at staying on the journey with me, being on the road trip, no matter how many detours I take, right?
That's what it's about. You mentioned you wrote a song, or you sang a song to her. Did you write that song, or was that a cover song?
It was a cover song, an amazing song. This is a song by Tesla called What You Give. It's about being mindful, being a giver in life. And that's a defining quality that I really love about the song. It was one of the few songs that I didn't want to rewrite the lyrics for. As I started singing more songs, I started with like a brown-eyed girl. Well, my girl she's got blue eyes. So I changed it to Blue Eyed Girl, right? And people were like, Van Morrison is not going to be happy with you. And so I started changing more and more of the lyrics. And that sort of led me to, okay, I wrote my first album end of 2018 and early 19. And that's why, because I had things to say that I couldn't find in a cover song somewhere.
That's cool. How many albums?
4.
4 albums. Okay, that's good. Influences. You've listed a few, I know, on your website. I saw that, I read up. But musical influences that maybe you pattern a little after, maybe you don't?
Yeah, I would say, I learned to play guitar playing John Mayer songs.
We like John Mayer.
Phenomenal guitarist. Love his style, and, a lot of his early writings, just my mind just really helped me a lot. So I would say guitar-wise, John Mayer. I love Jason Mraz's quirky positivity. He's such an amazing groove singer too. When he's singing, he's so in the pocket and in the groove, and just makes you feel what he's doing. Really love that about him. Maybe Tom Petty. My grandfather liked him. He had a way to say things very simply, right? So he could use a small amount of words and a low amount of complexity and really share an emotion. And then, maybe more recently, I love Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. He's like a really dynamic singer, and I really love that about him. And maybe Chris Stapleton. I love a lot of his lyrics as well. I listen often to Release Radar to find new people. I've been into the Red Clay Strays recently, which is a really phenomenal, I'll call them like a Southern rock gospel band or something.
Okay.
I think the Country Music Association picked them up as sort of like a new country. I don't think of him as country at all. I think of him as Southern rock. And then Stephen Wilson Jr. is sort of on my playlist lately. He's got the most unique sound, and I love his writing. It's very different. The way he writes and the words he chooses are very different. So yeah, I got some modern people helping shape me. Maybe some people I might end up playing a show with in the future. That'd be awesome.
We hope so. Your shows, I believe you told me you play in smaller venues. Is it just usually you, or do you play with other artists?
Yeah, it's locally I play in a trio. And so I'd love at some point to be playing bigger rooms where I can bring everyone with me. I think, at the moment, I'm still building my following. I love to play small theaters, listening spaces, 100-ish to 200 people rooms is good for me. It's intimate. I can tell stories. I can connect. I do play some bigger. So we have a bigger show coming up this weekend, March 7th at the Armadillo Palace. It's a bigger venue. So we have a full band, like a 5-piece.
Nice.
We're playing that show with. But I really enjoy the intimacy. That's one of the things that took me a while to figure out. I had a 4-piece light rock band that I had put together, in 2019. Coming out of COVID, I played with that group again. But I found myself enjoying more of an acoustic sound. And so I found another person in the community here to play with, Michael Shanks. He's a phenomenal guitar player as well. And so we had a little duo going, and then I found a lady, Rochelle, to sing harmonies with. And so we we have the nice acoustic vibe trio. And so I've found that this is, for me, the most comfortable place to tell my story and to share my music. And I think it connects best with people who are looking for some of that, extra positive energy in their life, but they don't want to go out to like a giant stadium and hear, this huge production, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We like those. Switch gears a little bit. Anything on your bucket list in life that you want to check off?
Yeah, bucket list. I'm pretty active on checking things off. I've checked quite a few. I'd say my wife and I love hiking in the national forests, and we've gotten through about half of them. So we got another half to go. So that'll be on the bucket list. I love family. Maybe sometime, my wife and I have a daughter and a son. Maybe sometime in the future, I'll have a grandbaby of some kind or another.
There you go.
A long way away from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be kind of cool too. Maybe those are the only two things at the moment that I could think of.
Thank you. Imagine today you could take a road trip with anyone, living or deceased. Who would it be? Where would you go? What would you talk about?
I would say I'd love to scoop up Albert Einstein and hop on the road. So many amazing things that I've heard that he said, right? About imagination and intellect and purpose, so much about innovation. And he had such a curious mind too, and how he discovered relativity. There's so many things that you sort of read about, but you don't know the context of it unless you actually talk to the person. And so I'd love to be like the perfect thing, like invite him on my tour with me, right? And so he could be my tour companion while I'm driving. And we could talk shop all the way to the next spot. He could go on a 20,000-mile trip with me, and I could just, immerse myself. That'd be pretty phenomenal.
Well, that would be fun. Thank you. Nobody yet on Dan the Road Trip Guy has wanted to take a road trip with Albert Einstein, so that's cool. Well, this has been fun. We're coming near the end of our little virtual ride here, Mark, and I really appreciate your time. But I'd love to ask you, leave my listeners with some life advice on how to live a great life, how to live a wonderful life.
Dan, I would say to me, listen to your inner voice, right? To me, even if it's a whisper, like the whisper I should write a poem about lilies, or the whisper that I should play a song for my wife for our anniversary, those whispers can bloom into amazing pillars in your life. So just be on the lookout for those bad boys and give them a little bit of attention, because you never know when you're going to unlock something that's really amazing, and you could be out on your own Good Vibes Highway tour if you do that.
That's great advice. Sometimes it gets a little too noisy in this world, and we need to kind of relax and listen for sure. Well, Mark, it's been fun. Before we go, leave my listeners with how to find you, your music.
So you can find me at markwintersmusic.com, and you'll find all things musical there, my latest releases. You'll find my tour schedule there, and where you can connect with me on the Good Vibes Highway Tour. And if you want a little extra dose of positivity, periodically you could join my email list. I'll share some extra protons. Usually I'll send you a poem or like a stripped down version of a song I'm working on. Maybe a special invite if we're going to do a community service day in your area to make the community a little better. Yeah, markwintersmusic.com. You can find me on social media as well with the same handle, or on your favorite streaming platform.
Yeah, and it looked like, I looked at the tour schedule, looks like you're about ready to hit the road and be out there for a bit.
My first show's in Arkansas, like the end of March, and then I'm headed west from there in the spring, and then I'll be back in for the summer, and then I'm headed out again in the fall, going east and north.
Well, you need to come to Ohio.
I think I have some shows there. I'd love to have you out for one day.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Mark, again, this has been a pleasure. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Dan, the Road Trip Guy.
Thank you for tuning in to Dan, the Road Trip Guy. I hope you enjoyed our journey today and the stories that were shared. If you have any thoughts or questions or stories of your own, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and family and help us to spread the joy of road trips and great conversations. Until next time, keep driving, keep exploring, and keep having those amazing conversations. Safe travels. And remember, you can find me on the internet at dantheroadtripguy.com.